Hi guys, in this video I want to show you how to solve quadratic equations like this by graphing. To solve this kind of equation, remember that we already know how to solve an equation like this using factoring techniques. We could factor the equation into x minus 1 and x plus 7, because negative 1 and positive 7 add to positive 6 and multiply to negative 7 equals 0, and then take each of the factors and set them equal to 0. So x minus 1 equals 0, and x plus 7 equals 0. And we could get two solutions, x equals 1 and x equals negative 7. Well, there's another way to solve equations like this, and that's by graphing. To solve an equation by graphing, we have to graph a related quadratic equation. Instead of 0, I'm going to replace the 0 with y. So I have y equals x squared plus 6x minus 7. You can watch the last video to see how we would graph an equation like that. But basically, if you do it on your calculator, you'll end up seeing a graph that looks something like this. In order to find the solutions on the graph, we look for points where the graph crosses the x-axis. Another reason why we're looking for where the graph crosses the x-axis, or rather the reason is, because the x-axis is the place where y equals 0. And if y equals 0, and we have x values that produce 0, then we have the values that solve the equation. It looks like I have a smiley face here. Anyway, let's look at a couple examples together. The related quadratic for this equation is y equals x squared plus 4x plus 5. Type this into your calculator and graph it. Notice how the parabola never hits the x-axis? Well, since the parabola doesn't hit the x-axis, in this case we say there are no real solutions. Let's do another example. Well, to solve this equation, just graph the related quadratic. Notice how the graph crosses the x-axis at negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and positive 1. These points, called the roots, or zeros of the graph, are the solutions. So, to solve this equation, we get x equals negative 5, or x equals positive 1. We put it in these little square brackets to show that the set of numbers that solves the equation is negative 5 and positive 1. Let's do another one. We'll start by swapping 0 for y and graphing the equation y equals x squared plus 6x plus 9. Notice how the graph hits the x-axis in this one place. Since the graph hits the x-axis just at x equals negative 3, then we say there's only one root, or one solution in this equation. Whoops, one solution. And in that case, x equals positive 3. Since you have to do this on your graphing calculator, let me make sure that you know where you can find the graphing functions. On the graphing calculator, you have the y equals button and another button that's really key is the trace button. We use y equals to put in equations. So you hit step 1, is type y equals, and put in the equation. Once you've graphed the equation, the second thing you can do to find the 0 is press the second key and then trace, and then choose 0. 0 is going to ask you to locate where on the graph you want to find a 0. If you wanted to find this 0 on the graph, then you would maneuver the cursor to the left of the 0, so go somewhere above it and press enter. You'll see a little arrow show up. Then you'll go to the right of the 0, press enter, and you'll see another little arrow show up. These guys should be pointing at each other. Then you're going to take a guess, maneuver the little guy back up to the 0, and hit enter. The calculator is going to guess and check all the numbers in between here, and starting at your guess, until it finds a number close enough to 0, and it will tell you the 0. If you do this twice, once there and once here, starting with a point to the left of the 0 to get the first guy to the left, and then to the right, and then your guess, you can find both the solutions or any solutions on a parabola just using your calculator and the trace buttons. And that's how we graph quadratic equations in order to solve them. Good luck.